Thank you.
I just have, excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Members, regarding the report.
I have a first review. The way that this was explained in the audit.
I don't hear you.
The way that this was explained in the audit was that the checks were approved and dispersed without the proper approvals. And what you're saying, your response is that you issue thousands of checks, and that this was just few. One check issued without proper approval is a major problem.
Well, on each check, there's 5 to 6 signatures. So if one's missing, that's an error and it shouldn't happen. But that means that either I've signed it, Mr. Fay signed it, the chief engineer signed it. And all the checks are properly signed. It's the approval slip that was missing the one signature. And I brought an example with me if you'd like to see one, how it works.
Mr. Kent, let me explain something. It seems like there's a bit of misunderstanding. The missing signatures were not missing off the check itself. It's the process of making payment. It goes to the individual department for approval. The head of that department sign it. And then goes to the project manager, sign it. Comes to my desk, sign it. And goes from here to Mr. Coyne, sign it, Mr. Fay, sign the paperwork itself, not the check. It has not been any finding that any check ever was paid without signature. This is just in the paperwork backup document for the checks itself, which Mr. Coyne have some example to what it looked like. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet with each head of department to sign it out.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this process. That makes it even worse. The authorization to issue the check was never properly received. The check was issued and disbursed without proper procedure. This is the same question that I raised when we had the financial report, but there was a problem with the internal controls. The performance auditors specifically said that the requirements on the opinion of the internal control was with the financial auditors. Yet and still, the financial audit report showed absolutely no findings at all. And this report is full of findings. The other report is full of findings. How can we get an audit report that says that there is no audit findings, and there was no audit findings in the previous year, yet when I read the previous year, the same findings were there, and even the results that you have here is over a year. Why did it take so long? When the auditors asked for these responses, when we got the audit, they never got them. Now, I just think that there is a problem, and this will be my last statement on this audit, but I just think that we have a problem with the audit, and it has not been addressed.
Chair?
I'm going to go take questions moving from Mr. Jett in this direction. If anyone would like to speak in this direction, we'll move along the table here.
Mr. Jett is correct. We previously raised this in the spring. I think the issue is the culpability in the paperwork itself, the paper trail. Can you audit the paper trail to the signature that is actually approved for the negotiable instrument? And the vulnerability is there. And I raised it again with the auditors in the conference call yesterday, that this should be 100%. There should be no slippage in terms of that. And when you start quoting 0.11%, that doesn't mitigate the problem whatsoever. And I think that one of the things that I think Mr. Jett is getting at that should be noted by the board itself is this. There's a new state law that will come into effect that the carryover, and that's his point to the heart of the matter, of these outstanding items will have a 90-day window to be resolved. So any item that is languishing from an old audit to a current one I believe it's going to be a 90-day window that's going to have to be resolved, and I believe that starts January 1st of 2014 to mitigate these type of issues. But there should be 100% control in terms of any paperwork to void out fraudulent signatures that end up saying, well, we all signed off on the check, but the paperwork was fraudulent. So we want to be able to mitigate that. Thank you.
Charlie.
I'd like to point out that the auditor is actually here, and I'd like to know, back there somewhere, that I'd be curious to know what his reactions are to the 5 comments that the staff have made, whether they are satisfying to the comments that were made in the review. So do you?
I'd like to finish the members' questions first. I have a couple of questions. On item number 1, program management, it indicates the district responded to the above request for information as follows. A new contract for Measure D 2010 and Measure E 2012 is in process. It is scheduled to be approved by the Board of Education on July 24, 2013. Has that been approved? Okay. Item number 2, bidding and procurement procedures. There were some inconsistencies here, and the district responded to the above request for information as follows. A bid award log has been incorporated into the board approval process and is coordinated with scheduled board meetings. When did that occur?
Well, the last batch of this project was submitted to the last board meeting. We can find them in the board book.
Okay. Item number 4, claims avoidance procedures. The mid-year report, the district responded to the above request for information by answering in the affirmative that the change order committee has been reinstated. Question, why wasn't it not in place? Second, when was it reinstated?
It has been reinstated for more than a year now, Madam Chair. It was put in the back burner for a scheduling issue, but it has been reinstated for more than a year.
So it is currently in effect?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And let's see. I think that's all I have. Anyone else?
Yeah, I have one. I'll get to you. If we can go to change order procedures to number 3. I'm hoping the district is concerned about the, it states that $152,645 payment to the contractor for 89 compensable delay days. It comes down and says that the figure inflates itself to $433,831. It appears that it's presented as causes of these compensable delays can be minimized, if not prevented, from occurring in future projects if the district more diligently followed the established design review and construction review process already in place. I'd like to find out what the average payment is for the compensable delay days, and is there a forward-looking thinking in terms of projecting what these costs are going to be? Because it looks like here, from the original contract duration of 600 days that's built in, that this is going to be a reoccurring cost no matter what. But it appears that there was a 7-day window that was extended with this as well. So I think that this is one of these floating costs that the district could mitigate in terms of these compensable days. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick observation. We've already kind of beat to death item number 5, but as long as we got into it the way we did, I'm just going to make the observation that the district response speaks toward invoices and signatures. The findings spoke toward checks. So in my work history, there is a difference between an invoice and a check. So the invoice is the mechanism by which you review whether the work was done and you get all the authorizing signatures. So I'm just saying that when the district gets, I don't view the district response as a very strong response to what the findings had to say. when you get into calculating, it just seems like you're really trying to make a point. Boy, there was only 0.11%, blah, 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 blah. Well, that had to do with the invoices. The findings had to do with checks. So I'm just saying, as we talked about this, and as I just make this observation, that's not a strong connection response, in my view. That's just an observation. The findings talks about checks. The response seems to talk about invoices. So I think that could be strengthened and tightened up. Just an observation.
You're right, Mr. Waller. It's just a quick reminder that the performance audit speaks of performance, not financial audit. I'll have Mr. Martin Coyne address that part of it. It may be noted in the audit being the checks, but the matter of fact is it is the process of issuing the check, not the check itself. And we have the auditor here. We probably can have, while they are on the agenda for the next item, we probably can address that concern.
I just don't want to belabor it, but I'm saying if that is the case, then it seems like the district response would be stronger by saying, well, you know, I just want to kind of correct the record here. The findings seem to talk about checks, when in fact it was really some invoice. I don't know. It just, there's a disconnect, in my view, to the reader of this. And I was just a reader of this tonight, so I hadn't seen it before tonight, and I just wanted to make that observation.
Okay, I apologize for that. It should have been, it wasn't about the checks. It was about the signature on for the invoice for the checks. The checks are properly signed and they're proper.
Oh, if we're done with is there any more comment? Then I'd like to just hear from the auditor what he thinks of the responses by staff to the 5 items. If there's anything to add that you have to add. And also, we might have to want to ask questions directly of the auditor.
You can come over here, sir, and sit right here. I'm not sure I understood completely the concern that was expressed, but in response I would at least say this. I would suggest that you read the entire section on Measure J expenditures and payment procedures in the full audit report, not just this, to get a complete understanding of the process. And the review did include tracking everything from the invoice with the authorized signatures on it, all the way through the actual issuance of the warrant, which is the check. This is a sample of 49 invoices / checks, which some might say is a very minimal sample. By definition, an audit can only review a sample. This is a performance audit, not a financial audit. The financial auditor probably reviewed a larger sample than we did, as they probably should. Usually they sample, I think, 3 to 5% or something like that. That's up to them to determine what they consider to be appropriate. In any event, a sample of even this small size, identifying 3 instances of noncompliance, is enough to raise an actual finding, which does deserve a broad attention by the district. Of course, a 100% compliance is the goal. Probably no one is capable of producing 100% compliance in any district, especially one with this volume of transactions occurring. But that is certainly an ongoing goal, and I believe the district has responded positively that, as Martin Cohn pointed out of a sample of 100 invoices that they followed through, they had no incidents of noncompliance. So it doesn't appear that the district is taking some positive action. We will be reviewing this process again this year, and internally we'll be discussing what sample size to engage in to ensure that the district is moving toward a more accurate payment process.
What I'm wondering is if the performance audit is done every year, are you finding the same incidents over and over? Do you track the incidents to see how they are being fixed from the previous performance audit?
We do look at that. We look at that primarily by conducting a new review of new samples to indicate if there's improvement or not. I can tell you this, that I have participated in about 75 performance audits throughout the state. I have never found a single school district that has no incidences of, every school district has some instances of noncompliance. That goes with the territory, so to speak. You know, there are some times that staff is not available, they're out on vacation, they're sick, it's over the Christmas holiday break, or it could be over the summer period. There are times when procedures are let loose a little bit so that somebody gets a prompt payment rather than letting it drag on too long. There should be backup signatures. You should always have someone available with the authorization to sign it every step of the way. That should be in place, and I believe in general that is followed in this district.
And can you provide the CBOC with a report that shows over the course of several years if these same situations keep occurring?
Yes, I can, and I'd be happy to provide that information. Just for your information, several years ago we did provide a follow-up analysis of all the findings and recommendations and a follow-up to the district's responses, but all of our reports are available, and I'd be happy to follow the trend of what has happened over the years.
Yes, we'd like to see that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think that if the board wanted to just look at the audit findings, it's on the net, and this is exactly what I did, and it is just a continuation of a problem. It's there, and I think that the auditor has made it clear, although he sort of tiptoed around it, that 3 audit findings on this checks on 49 is material. And I just think that I think that more time should be put into this, because even with this audit finding where there was $453,000 that had to be paid for the late, that's a major finding. And the financial audit, and as the auditor indicated, there is no district anywhere where there is no findings. But yet and still, I got the audit report here. The financial audit says no findings in any year. So something is wrong somewhere.
For your information, in response to your quest for history, I have been involved with the performance audit in this district since 2002-03. So this is 10 years I've been looking at this. And I can tell you that in the early days of the performance audit, there was a significant problem with making payments late, to the point where a lot of subcontractors and contractors were making complaints to the district on a regular basis. The district resolved that problem. They did put into place some payment procedures that took care of that, and they are, while there have been a few instances of noncompliance, vendors are getting paid timely. That issue has been resolved in this district.
Anything further? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item, where are we, B3?
Performance audit.
Performance audit.
Oh, it's hard when you have the agenda. So, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Could I ask, is this about the old performance audit, or is this looking forward to the new performance audit? Okay. Is that the right, or is it Mark?
Just explain where we are with our contract with Total School Solutions. They're in the 3rd year of a 3-year contract, and it'll be up at the end of this audit period. So that's where. So Vern's going to speak about the process of the performance audit and what they do and the procedures that they follow.
We began this year's performance audit in August of this year. We start by doing an internal accumulation of documents that we can find on the internet to compile whatever information is available for the 2012-13 school year. Then we compile a list of documents that we would request that the district provide us for the audit. At that same time, we request a schedule of interviews of the various players in the audit. Our actual field work began this week. We are here. We've been here Monday, Tuesday, and now Wednesday, and we will be here tomorrow. So far, we have interviewed approximately 15 to 20 individuals, district staff, a couple of board members, some CBOC members, the SGI staff, and everyone in a significant role in the process. We're having, I believe, 5 more interviews tomorrow with district and SGI staff, and also Yvette, I believe we're meeting with you tomorrow. So this is the data collection process where we identify everyone's concerns, things that we want to be taking an in-depth look at. We follow the contract specifications to the letter. We develop an internal draft, which we complete usually in December, and we forward that initial draft to the district administration for review either in late December or early January. The district has the opportunity to respond to any of our findings and observations, things that we may have missed or we have maybe misunderstood, to seeking clarification. The district, we invite the district to make responses, which we include in our final report. And then, so we go through this process of a month or so of review and editing and clarification before we issue our final report, which by law must be presented to the board no later than the end of March of each year. And I don't know, I cannot address the issue of at what point the CBOC becomes involved, because our responsibility is to deliver our draft to the district. How the district handles that draft is a matter for their internal administration to resolve.
Okay.
I didn't comment. Did you look at the bylaws of the CBOC? The bylaws specifically state that the DISC commission is supposed to be involved from day one. It's in the bylaws.
The district is, you're saying the district is supposed to be involved from day one?
This commission, it's supposed to be from day one. And we brought this up to you that day that we had that meeting. Anyway.
I believe you're referring to your bylaws.
Yes, I am.
Unfortunately, we are obligated to follow the language of our contract, which is not necessarily in total unison with your bylaws. So that is an issue that you probably need to resolve with the administration and board.
Give us a copy of the audit so that we can work with it before the finalization of the draft, I think,
And resolve what the contract says as to what our bylaws are stating. We'd like to be a working committee with what your findings are so that there are no surprises for us as well.
I can appreciate that, and we have no problem providing you with that, provided that the administration authorizes us to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Martin, can you provide that?
What TSS does is send the audit report, the draft audit report, to both I and the chairperson of the audit subcommittee. Vern doesn't know this because he doesn't work in that area. It's usually from Solvay or Susan. So from that point on, the audit subcommittee get the draft audit report, work on it, meet with the TSS auditor, usually to hear, and then they bring any comments, questions, and he responds to those comments, and then he comes up with a final report. So we do work very closely with the audit subcommittee and according to the bylaws. But the bylaws say once the draft report is ready, it goes to us and the subcommittee at the same time, which it did last year via email. And I can show you that if you need to see the email that I received.
Yeah, again, I've been on the CBOC now not quite a year, so I still consider myself a newbie, but when I hear comments this been involved in the audit since, I think you said 2002. You know, and I'm thinking we're sitting here in 2013, and that over the course of these 10 years, the issue of the involvement and the alignment of the CBOC and the school district board, and I know there are some passionate folks on the CBOC who have their own backgrounds in audits and everything else. I'm just a little bit in awe that this isn't nailed down more precisely in terms of the involvement and the role of the CBOC as the citizens bond oversight, and an audit seems so closely aligned to oversight. I'm just again making that observation that I'm surprised that this is unfolding kind of in the way that I'm hearing it is, and it just seems like that this should have. Just a minute, Charlie. That I'm just kind of surprised that this is unfolding the way it is. Again, mainly just an observation. It seems like the CBOC should be more. It seems like should be more actively involved, and I certainly can't point to him, verse, and whatever of the bylaws. I'm just not that familiar with them, but I just think this is an interesting observation. I hope you do too, somehow.
So, Mr. Waller, as was stated, the TSS contract was renewed 3 years ago prior to the bylaws being put in place. So there was no nexus to put that in their contract since it hadn't happened yet. But as a cooperative thing, the bylaws, from my standpoint, were really mirroring what the committee wanted at the time. And so in the administration of the performance audit, we have always given the CBOC the deference. So 3 years ago, when TSS resubmitted to the RFP and was chosen, Mr. Gosney was on that selection committee and was very involved through several meetings to make sure that it happened. So the bylaws were an afterthought, and you know, some people want to really document things, and that's where the bylaws came from. So there is no misalignment, and of course, you know, that takes experience. I've been here 5 years, and you've been here 9 months, and I've had the experience that, you know, by and large, we try to work with the committee and do exactly what they want. There's not a problem to get a draft copy of their comments at the same time. And ever since that came up, that's what we strive to do. So, being that a great percentage of this membership is new to the process, that is where the angst is coming from, because we've been doing this exact process all of my time here, and I find it interesting that these things haven't come up 4 years ago, 3 years ago. So we're aligned about what we believe shouldn't happen.
Oh, first of all, in terms of being in sync, one thing that comes up is that it's not always clear who's the contact person on the committee. So everyone realizes that Orlandis is the chair of the audit subcommittee, so he's the contact man. So we're all good for that. I think there might have been some confusion about that. Part of the misalignment was we had sort of a turnover in terms of the chairs, and that might have thrown things over. I have a question for Vern. Do you ever have any provision for general public input when you're interviewing people, specific people? One of the things I thought, I'm curious if any other district has done it, so that's one way to approach a question like that, where you just solicit public comment from the homepage of the website that's through email about issues that might be important to the audit.
Well, we are not doing that in this district. We have done that selectively in some districts in the past where we have submitted questionnaires for the PTAs to respond, for principals to respond, for administrators to respond, and so forth. We are not doing that at this time. That would have to be something that would have to be included within the contract language to do that.
So you're saying with the that would be a violation of the contract for you to receive that? Because you have to look at it. It's more time.
It is quite timely to do a survey of people. So we'd have to look at the time, at the depth of the survey and the volume of the comments and how you treat them after you've got them.
Perhaps maybe a way around that then is maybe our committee should do that, since we're supposed to be the interface with the public for the bond program, so that we solicit the opinions and then you don't have to answer the emails, but we use the audit subcommittee would use that as to influence their thinking in terms of how they approach it.
And we could include an anecdotal appendix, if you will, of your summary of the comments received from the public.
Okay, it's something we'd have to consider that.
Okay.
And
let's move on to item B3, which is recommendation for format for project status update.
Point of order. You're looking at the wrong agenda. You're looking at the agenda that we submitted. The agenda that we're working from is actually that item. The words "format of" were dropped, and we're doing the project status update.
And looking at the time, we only have 10 minutes. You have your membership item, and I believe you had people that wanted to speak on public comment. So the packets are provided with all the information. Mr. Abdallah was going to talk about 2 or 3, but in essence of being compact.
Okay.
I say. Yeah.
Oh, you there? Yes.
Yes.
My name is Charles Jones, school board member. Just wanted to let you know I reviewed this. This is fine, except one project's missing on here, so I just want to make sure that projects in design, we do not have Valley View Elementary, so I wanted just to make sure that you know that Valley View Elementary is missing from this list. And that was just so that we would have an accurate reflection of this project status. James Lewis McKinley's getting ready to do a temporary campus, and that's out of DSA, and then the main campus later. So just wanted to make sure that was included in the report.
Madam Chairman, can Magna give a quick update as to what is going on with is it Valley View?
Valley View Elementary.
Yes. A quick update.
Well, basically, Valley View was omitted. It was a mistake, and I apologize.
That's fine. Is there anything that we need to know in terms of what's going on with Valley View quickly?
The project is at DSA as we speak. They are awaiting final plan review. It will be done probably in the next 3 months. Then the project will be DSA approved.
Okay. Tim.
Tim Warner. And so as long as we're on the subject, I want to point out that Fairmont Elementary School in El Cerrito is also missing from this list. We're in a strange, I'm a parent of Fairmont children, and I know we're behind Portola, and that's an issue, but I don't want to be off any list.
You're right. That was also missed in this report. My whole focus was to give you a quick overview of the project that's coming down the road the next year and a half or 2. As you said, Fairmont is not going to start until Portla gets completed. That's probably the reason why it was missed. It's my mistake. Will not happen again.
Item B5 or B4, my agenda item. Charlie, would you take this one? Membership, current status, and improvements.
Okay, I'll just be really quick. The basic theme, I think, is that the committee in the past has been more passive, maybe because many of us are new to it, in terms of actually making sure that our membership is staffed. So we've started taking a more active role, but really Dr. Harder is the point man, because in order to be appointed, they have to be appointed by the board, and some of the nominations are by Dr. Harder, at least one. So I would just like to encourage, the main thing is that Ms. Rico, the chair of the committee, and Dr. Harder as superintendent should talk to each other more in terms of trying to work together to fill these slots. It's in the grand jury report. they were addressing all the different committees, not us in particular, but we asserted that everything is copacetic, but because of, I don't remember exactly what the answer is, but we've fallen a little far behind, and part of it is that we have these required positions that have been empty for a while, and that kind of raises issues of legitimacy. So, but we have made some progress. They have a taxpayers organization. Did the taxpayers person contact you, Dr. Harder? Alex Alaferis?
The taxpayers appointment and the parent will be on the November 6th agenda for the board.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so I won't dwell on this anymore. It's just that we're trying to make some changes to make it easier to contact the board, our committee, to find out more about it. We're working on a membership description, a job description, so when someone asks you what it is, you can actually hand them a piece of paper, and that's the job description. So we're making progress, and I just hope that Ms. Rico and Dr. Harder can work closely together in the future to keep us staffed up.
Okay. Item C, public and committee communications. Are any of the CBOC committee members ready with a report? No reports at this time, so we will move on to public comment.
We have James Erickson, who would like to discuss the El Cerrito High School football stadium renovation.
Good evening. I'm James Erickson at 401 Calusa Avenue. And we, the neighbors of Rockaway Avenue in Calusa, are writing you with regards to the proposed football stadium project at El Cerrito High School. Many of our backyards share a wall and or fence with the back of the football field's southern limits, so this project is literally right in our backyard. We realize that this project is in the final phase of the high school campus improvements. This project has benefits to the community, but it's also a truly successful project. It is critical that we, the neighbors, are included and considered as the project moves forward. While we acknowledge the planning level public meetings did take place 2 years ago, we are disappointed that it took one resident overhearing a couple of workers last week for us to even know that the project construction is planning to start this year. We would like our concerns heard and addressed formally before any demolition begins in the space adjacent to our homes. We understand time is now tight, as contract bids are due October 30th, and as shared with us by Magdi Abdallah, Chief Engineer Officer, and Andrew Mixer, work may start as early as November. We met with Maggie and Andrew on October 9th, 2013, after expressing concern at the October 8th Facilities Subcommittee meeting over privacy issues related to the proposed project and a lack of communication to us about the upcoming construction. At the October 9th meeting, Maggie commented to the group that the existing fence and all of the ivy growing on it along the school's southern property boundary would not be removed, and that a new fence would be built next to it, north of the existing fence, thus resolving our concern over long-term privacy. We would like that this commitment documented in writing to the homeowners who have signed this letter, which we have copies for this committee, and included in the bid documents and the design drawings so that it is clear that the contractor will not remove the existing fence. We are hopeful that this type of cooperation with the school district has provided thus far to alleviate our privacy concerns will also help us resolve our concerns regarding health and property hazards. Our health hazards of concern have to do with those living so close to the full-time construction zone for an extended duration of 10 to 12 months. Some of us residents are pregnant and have young children, making us sensitive to the environmental risks. Particular health concerns during construction activity include exposure to contaminants such as asbestos, lead paint, etc. from old buildings during demolition, diesel exhaust, dust, noise, other hazardous materials staged near our living space, and pests migrating into our property. The property hazard of concerns has to do with a retaining wall that is to be erected 5 feet from the southern property line of the project, which will require excavation of the existing slope. Particularly property concerns during constructions include potential for large trees falling on our homes and property during the removal of roots during the retaining wall construction, slope stability and ground settlement of property caused by the disturbance of disturbance during retaining wall construction. We respectfully request that the West Contra Costa County Unified School District take the following actions to alleviate our privacy, health, and property concerns. Provide us with a copy of the environmental impact report and meeting minutes from the previous public meetings for the football stadium project within the next 14 days. We will request that the environmental impact report and meeting minutes, along with the engineering design drawings and specifications from Maggie and Andrew at the October 9th meeting, and again via email on October 10th. Thus far, we have only received web links to view the drawings and specifications, meeting minutes, and the environmental impact report requests have not been met. Allow us 21 days to review and provide comments as to whether certain items on the environmental impact report and meeting minutes are sufficiently addressed in the design drawings and specifications prior to awarding the construction contract. Confirm in writing the commitment made by Maggie and Andrew in our group meeting on October 9th to preserve the existing fence and ivy. Additionally, document this change in the bid documents and design drawings so that it is clear that the contractor will not remove the existing fence. Agree upon document who will be responsible for long-term maintenance of the existing fence and the area behind the existing fence if a second fence is installed. Provide and document the mitigation and monitoring measures that will be taken of each of the health and property hazard listed above, 1 through 8, as part of this bid documents. Example, diesel exhaust can be partially mitigated by using a certified Tier 4 engines on construction equipments to treat exhaust and reduce noise. Tier 4 requirements also limit the idle time of construction equipment, for example, a maximum of 5 minutes per hour, reflecting best practices such as this are important to include in the bid documents to get accurate cost and time estimates for the project, while keeping public health and safety a priority. Other appropriate best practices for air quality can be identified by consulting with the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. Lastly, provide information on the impact of nearby vegetation and trees resulting from the construction of the retaining wall adjacent to the southern property line of the project. There is concern that tall pine trees and redwood trees and my own locust tree that reside on the south side of the property line may be compromised, resulting in potential hazard for residents and their properties. We would like to see the information that guided your decision to place a retaining wall where it was proposed. If this information was not included in the decision, we request further research be done to be conducted so that the neighbors are not surprisingly faced with a hazardous tree. We also request that Madeline Kronberg and Todd Groves meet with the neighbors on Rockaway Avenue and Colusa Avenue within the next 2 weeks to discuss our concerns. Our spokeswoman, Sherry Drobner, has listed her phone number on this document, and with that said, we thank you for your time and consideration.
Judd Goodman would like to address the El Cerrito High School football stadium renovation.
I'm a neighbor as well on Rockaway Avenue. Yeah.
I just wanted to raise a point of order.
I think that this should be
put a time limit?
addressed to the school board, not to this commission.
Well, it's up to the public to they decide who they want to address. I was just going to suggest that we impose a time limit of 2 minutes.
It's nothing to do. We're involved.
I was going to suggest that, I'm using the microphone now, I was going to suggest that there be a 2-minute time limit for the speakers so that we, because we are already past.
Is your speech as lengthy as the previous one? Okay, go right ahead.
We wanted to...
Excuse me just for a moment. Can you tell us also where you live? I'm looking at the diagram in conjunction with where you were speaking about.
I live
where the
on
houses are. No,
Rockaway
just where the
Avenue.
houses are. The houses, I have Ashbury. Where are the houses?
The houses are just south of the football stadium, along Rockaway Avenue, and also Jim's house is along Colusa. It's right up against the... Yeah, there's a fence or a wall separating the two. So there's no wall at some properties. There's only a fence. At others, I think it's about 8 feet at tops. So I think part of the purpose of coming here is to let you know about our concerns And I also have the letter in writing that I want to provide to each of the school board members.
Next is Sherry Drobner on Rockaway Avenue, who would like to discuss the Bond Stadium renovation.
Hi, good evening. This is loud. We live on Rockaway in Calusa. We're right behind Fat Apples. I moved into my home 14 years ago. I've enjoyed the football games when they happen. They're literally in my backyard. So you're home, you're at the dining table, and the games go on. And they've been fine. We have no problem with that. But we have some problem with the proposed demolition plans that are happening and the fact that we weren't really alerted to them. I take full responsibility in the fact that I didn't attend the 3 meetings that happened 2 years ago. In 2011, there were some calls for a discussion of stadium plans, and I took it lightly. I didn't know what that meant. But I didn't think that 2 years later there would be a complete design and demolition that included excavation of a slope right in my backyard that could result in my pine tree falling on my home. And when I asked the district about this, they said, if your roots are trespassing on our property, then that's the way it goes. And frankly, I didn't find that to be very satisfactory. And I feel like that we are a neighborhood, and we don't really have very much power. And as such, we can only voice our concerns and ask for your cooperation. And I feel like that's what we really want to do. We want to cooperate, but that has to be intentional. There has to be the idea that the district wants to cooperate with us as well. And the district did due diligence in having those meetings. I understand that. But we're at a different phase of the project now, and I call it the demolition phase. I know it's also the renovation phase, and they're going to construct a building like right behind my backyard, and I'm not even going to complain about that, but I feel like we do need to have a discussion about some possible hazards, and that's what I'm asking, and why we're hoping that we can meet with some school board members to talk about it. Thank you.
Next is Giorgio Constantino, who would like to address the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee performance.
Hi, thank you. I'll be fast. Giorgio Cosentino, Hercules. And the first item I wanted to mention, observation regarding the quorum. I know the CBOC has greater than 20 members, but if I understand correctly, it looks like you could have a quorum even with minus the 5 legally required positions. The state mandates there's 5 defined positions on the CBOC. So that is maybe a cause for concern, maybe something you want to look at, although I must say I'm very impressed with all you folks right here on this team. And that was my next comment, was to thank the CBOC members. Something to think about. I thought about this when Chairwoman Yvette Rico, recently she's been juggling taking care of her mom across the country, and then also here she is. And I thought, wow, all of these volunteers, they have lives, and yet they're making time to come down here and be part of the oversight process. And so I'm asking the district to please put yourself in their shoes. I know district staff, your employees, I mean, you have lives too. You got your family, and so maybe you know where I'm going with this. Let's make the most of our time, and when they ask for something, let's make it happen as fast as we can, because life is short, and let's treat it that way. Thank you.
Next is Claudia Bugaro. She would like to address the board about the El Cerrito High School football field remodel.
Thank you. I'll make this brief because my neighbors have said everything we needed to say tonight. I just want to say I have lived on Rockaway for 20 years, and this remodeling, I don't mind that the football field is behind us, and I think we all voted for the bonds anyway. But the impact of this remodeling on our homes and our relationships to our home is significant, and so we would like our concerns addressed. I think we can resolve them if we just spend a little time together. So I urge you to meet with us. Perhaps a couple of the school board members can meet with us and see if we can resolve the issues that we have. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the public comment section of the agenda, and Citizens Bond Oversight Committee will have its next meeting on December the 4th. There is no meeting in November, and this meeting is adjourned in the good of the order. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.